Welcome to Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Rick Ortiz for DadsDivorce.com. Today we're speaking with Robert Franklin about paternity fraud. Robert Franklin has practiced law in Texas for 29 years. He has an active interest in men's and fathers' rights, and he's had that for over 12 years. And for the past year, he's written and edited the fathers' rights blog, glensacks.com. He serves on the board of directors of the national nonprofit organization, Families and Fathers. So, Robert, welcome to Dad's Divorce Live.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
And let's talk a little bit about some of the articles that you've written that we've seen on glensacks.com, and we're going to put links up to those articles. But let's talk a little bit about paternity fraud. Give us an example of what we're talking about when we're talking about paternity fraud.
Paternity fraud occurs when a woman bears a child but misrepresents to a man who the father actually is. In every case of paternity fraud, she tells one man he is the dad when he's not, and what that means necessarily is that she doesn't tell the true father that he is the father. Right. So every case of paternity fraud involves two guys being defrauded.
Right. And I would imagine, too, that when it does come out, oftentimes you have a wide spectrum of behaviors by the father who has been defrauded, meaning the nurturing father. You probably have, of course, a lot of anxiety, but you also have actions as far as the father possibly leaving and abandoning the family and the child, the father swallowing his anxiety and continuing to raise the child
Right.
for the benefit of the child. And I think maybe what we're talking about here is empowering these men to make a decision before things have gone along too far, and to then decide what their level of responsibility is going to be for a
Right.
child that is not theirs. Now, are there any laws out there on the books right now that provide for a solution for a man who at some point down the road finds out that the child he's been raising is not his?
Very few. There are a couple of states, Georgia being one of them, that allow DNA testing at any time. A husband can demand mandatory DNA testing under Georgia law at any time during or even after marriage. To determine whether he is the biological father, and if he is not, then he is allowed to basically make a choice of whether he wants to continue playing the paternal role or not. And if it's post-divorce and he has a child support order against him, then he can choose to opt out of that deal. And if he opts out, then that does away with his parental obligations and his parental rights.
So for a father divorcing in Georgia, he can, like you said, at any point, and this could even be before a divorce is decided upon. So he can, if he has suspicions, he can then have the testing.
Correct.
And let's assume that he's getting a divorce or has been divorced and has a child support order. He can, if he finds out that he is not in fact the father of the child, then he can opt out of support, but he's also at the same time opting out of any type of relationship that he would have with that child.
That's correct. Okay. Now, let me make clear that every state is different. Georgia is, as far as I know, unique although Ohio may have passed a similar law. I'm not sure about that. But what men need to understand is that they need to find out what the law is in their state. You know, whatever state you're in, you need to contact a family lawyer and find out what the law is, because they are not the same. Okay. And let me make another point, and that is that you can do DNA testing on your own. You can do it in secret. in confidentiality. You can go to, as far as I know, any reputable pharmacy and get a kit, or you can do it online. And you send that those cheek swabs off to a testing laboratory. The testing costs about $130, so you're looking at about $160 total. And in that way, they will send you back the results of the test that are going to tell you whether you are the child's father or not. Now, those tests are not admissible in court, but they will tell you to a virtual certainty whether you have a problem or not. And I would encourage people to do that, because once you get a private test like that, if it tells you you're not the father, then you can go into court and get a court-ordered test that will be admissible in evidence.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. And probably across the board, regardless of what state you're in, if there's any doubt, or if you're heading towards a divorce, this would be a good idea, and not a very costly one.
Right. And knowledge is a good thing. And if you find out you are the father, then fine, you'd have nothing else to do. Right. And I would encourage people to do this, even if they feel very certain of their paternity, because let me tell you, every dad I've ever talked to has felt very certain that he was the dad.
Well, this has been very interesting, and I would like to remind our visitors that your articles can be found on glensachs.com, and we're going to put links up to the specific articles so that they can find those and read them and learn about this a little bit, read these articles a little bit more closely and learn about this, and perhaps we'll have some follow-up questions that we can ask you at a later date.
That would be great, and also go to the website fathersandfamilies.com. It's a resource for a huge amount of information regarding not only paternity and paternity fraud, but really all issues relating to fatherhood. It's an important and good site. And let me just say, if I can leave your listeners with one thing, that is your paternity is in your hands. If you can do DNA testing yourself confidentially anytime you want to, and that will give you valuable information with which to decide your own paternal rights and responsibilities. You don't need to wait for a court. You don't need to wait for the woman to tell you the truth. You can find out the information yourself, and I urge you to do that.
Well, thank you. I want to thank you, Robert Franklin, for talking to us a little bit about paternity and paternity testing and paternity fraud. And I know this has been valuable for our visitors. And we hope to hear from you again soon. And we want to thank our visitors for tuning in to Dad's Divorce Live on DadsDivorce.com. For DadsDivorce.com, I'm Rick Ortiz.